Protectionist perspective. Simply put, teachers must master the technology before students do. It's critical that students are exposed to different media and technologies, but with the thoughtful eye of a critic. Teachers need to facilitate this evaluation and can only do this if they're adequately versed in the technologies themselves. As with the examples of propaganda during wartime America, if a teacher isn't prepared to respond to the new technologies and forms of media, the only viable solution will be to identify, control, and even eliminate the offending media. Because teachers' roles in 1920 and 2010 is to teach students how to think and not what to think, emphasis needs to be put onto media literacy, and not avoidance of the media entirely. The author continues the evolution of media from pamphlets to radio to television and film, and at each stage, if teachers were not adequately versed in the technology, it was seen as an affront or a threat. Someone had to decide if the media was appropriate for the students and worth including in the classroom. I imagine the decisions weren't made by individual teachers, but rather by parent committees, trustees, or senior-level administrations. My guess is that then, as now, there were many classroom teachers well versed in the technology, using it appropriately and thoughtfully. However, change can be difficult, and there are always resistors to change in culture, media, or technology. As I've been put into a variety of leadership positions over the past few years, I'm becoming more familiar with these difficulties. A few years ago, part of my job allocation was to work in a high school, attempting to implement some changes in teacher practice around using technology in their classes. My specific focus was on integrating desire to learn into their classroom practices. I was assigned half-time to this school, while I still worked half-time at my own online high school, CBE Learn. I met some resistance in the work I was attempting, and didn't always handle it as a leader probably should. Rather than extolling the virtues of using this learning management system, and helping other teachers understand the potential of the technology in their daily tasks, I would often avoid the naysayers, and those who were reluctant to adopt new technologies or new practices in their daily tasks. Instead, I chose to focus my dwindling energy on teachers who were interested and who had already bought into the concepts I was prepared to share with them. There were many teachers who wanted my help on a variety of fronts, and I was able to keep busy with the requests that were coming in. However, there were some teachers I wasn't able to reach, and therefore had no impact on their overall practice. Honestly, I don't dwell on those I could not reach, and continue to focus on those who wanted and required my assistance. Knowing a little bit more about leadership and a little bit more about myself, I think I would possibly approach this job differently now. I think I would spend a little more time acting as an advocate for the technology, and spend a little bit more time searching out champions within the staff. I was in an awkward position of an AC job where I wasn't technically part of the staff of the school, so I didn't really have an official leadership position. I understand now that leadership is more than positional authority or title. However, since I was an outsider in the school, I didn't have an established reputation or any sort of credibility. In fact, I was at the school for 2 years, and it wasn't until the second year that I'd established relationships, presence, and credibility with the majority of the staff. Had I continued in that position for another third year, I think I could have made even more significant changes to the school culture as a whole. However, I know that I did make a positive impact on a number of teachers who are now taking on a leadership role at that school and are passing on the skills, knowledge, and attitudes I attempted to instill in them. In this way, I feel that I have been a successful leader and change agent, although it wasn't within the focused intentionality I would have wanted. The specific changes I was attempting to bring to the school weren't controversial and wouldn't generally be seen from a protectionist perspective, as there was little moral or ethical concerns to the safety or well-being of students. However, I believe I learned something about the way in which these changes could be implemented were I faced with the staff who were resistant and reluctant to adopt other technologies. Teachers need to be experts in the technology before students do. However, this requires teachers to be just as flexible and adaptive as the learners in their classroom. It's quite literally impossible to predict the direction technologies will go in the next 5-10 years. In the year 2000, it would not have been possible to accurately describe Twitter. If you tried, most people would have stopped when you told them, "It's like using your BlackBerry to post a status update on Facebook." Most of those individual words would make sense to someone in 2000, but without the context of the past 10 years, it's basically technobabble. Even now, it's difficult to fully explain Twitter to someone who hasn't used it before and isn't familiar with other forms of social media. It's not possible to predict what technologies will exist in 10 years, but it's a critical role of the teacher to stay on top of trends and understand the technologies and media our students will be familiar with. That doesn't mean we all need Twitter and Foursquare accounts, but we need to understand how the technologies work. I also believe it's the responsibility of all educators to fully understand what the inherent dangers and pitfalls are, so we can ensure our students are using technologies in a thoroughly thoughtful, purposeful, and meaningful way.